Good morning. We're here at the COS in Austin, Texas, and we're pleased to be here this morning with Joe Theine. Thanks, Joe, for being with us this morning.
You're welcome. It's great to be here in Austin.
Joe, I know you gave a great session at this conference about onboarding new employees into the practice and also specifically how to retain those new employees. Can you give us an idea of why this concept is so important?
Yeah, from a high level, our employees are really there to serve our patients first and really through our providers. And if we don't bring employees on in a real proactive way, they may not stay. And certainly retaining employees helps us really build the support that's needed for the physicians and patients in our practice.
So it sounds like from the get-go, from day one, it's important to have this process planned out in a very planned way, such that the new employee is sort of embracing the culture and the theme of the practice.
Yes, we actually think about onboarding from the very first time we're interviewing that person. Part of it is what we're looking for and what they're going to bring, but part of it is starting to tell our story about the practice and why we exist. And in that time between when we make a hiring decision and when we start, we're actually doing things to reach out to them, make sure that they're confident that they've made a good decision so that when they start, we can really engage them in the rest of the practice.
That's a really important concept. And I'm wondering, Joe, if we can really get a little granular on this, and can you give us an example or two of some things that you found to be very helpful in your work to make this process go smoothly?
Yep. So some real simple things that we do between when we offer and when somebody starts, we actually have all of our staff sign a welcome card. And that lets all of our staff know that somebody's joining and who they are. It also helps that person feel welcome. When the person first starts, they're usually given a mentor or somebody in the practice that they get to spend time with and get to know the practice as well. So those are just two kind of simple but very effective ways that we help someone start with our practice.
Joe, that's a great point, and I like the idea of mentorship. It really kind of allows that new person to sort of look up to and be accountable to a singular person or maybe a small group of people. How does that work in a larger practice? Obviously, every practice is a different size, and I assume that in small practices versus medium or large practices, that this concept may apply a little bit differently.
Yeah, I imagine it does. So we have 5 physicians in our group and 20 some employees, and so I think of us as a mid-sized group. And we still do some type of mentorship. It may not look as formal as a larger organization, but one of the things we try and do is make sure that if somebody's coming into a clinical role, that they get to spend time with someone in a non-clinical role. And if somebody's coming in our front office and they're going to be greeting patients, that they spend some time in the clinic. That way, all of our staff get a sense of what the patient's experiencing when they come through the office through the eyes of another department. It also helps build those relationships that are so important down the road.
That seems really important, Joe, almost like doing different rotations through the different areas of the practice so that each new employee knows how the entire practice works. I assume that employees are sometimes faced with questions from patients that they may not necessarily deal with on a day-to-day basis, but if they know that one of their colleagues is equipped to deal with that question, then they'll feel more confident in referring them to the proper person.
Yeah, absolutely. It builds that kind of informal network of support, and that informal network of support also really helps in the longer run with retention. Having someone that you feel is a friend at work can really make a difference in how you feel about showing up, and creating those relationships start to, from day one, keep us from going, oh, well, that department did this or this person did that. If we start off with relationships amongst staff and amongst the departments, it really helps build the foundation for a long-term employee to stay with the group.
That's a really important point. I know that you mentioned retention, and I want to shift gears towards speaking about that specifically for a moment. Let's say that you've hired a great employee, and they're really a go-getter for the practice, and they're doing great. They're really relating well with the other employees, with the physicians and all the other employees in the practice. How do you keep that person and make sure that they are enjoying their work and that they stay with you for some time?
Yeah, so some of it's that informal, everyone getting to know each other, but some of it's having the structure in place so that from a management side, we make sure we're recognizing work that's well done. So one of the things that we have within our group is a formal awards program. It's called Seeing Great Things, and all of the managers have the opportunity to recognize in a handwritten form when someone's gone out of their way to serve our patients. most of the things we recognize people for are not about their technical skills, but it's about those experiences they create for other employees or patients, and that's a part of our culture. So we reinforce it. And then we have a quarterly social gathering, and everyone that has some type of written recognition gets put in for a raffle, and we're raffling off some really nice prizes for our employees. So that's one way that we're both trying to provide something tangible that our employees have, but also just having a structure in place to recognize work when it's well done throughout the year.
I really like that concept, Joe. You know, patients come up to me all the time, and they will provide me informal feedback. Oh, your assistant did this, or your receptionist did this, and I really appreciate this, and or you know, I wish this could have gone a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that physicians don't often realize that the staff in their practice are a reflection of them, and having these concepts in place where everyone in the practice is on the same page and subscribing to the same culture seems like it's best for everyone.
Yep, and it starts with the physicians in the group and the culture that they want to set, and then it's building out kind of the infrastructure to support that. And so having some tangible things in place really helps reflect back on the physician and what it is that they're wanting to see for their patients in the group.
Well, Joe, this has really been an eye-opening discussion for us today about how important it is to onboard and retain employees in a proper fashion. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.